Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
Welcome to the AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today my guest is Mike Svoboda from Sky Auto Mall. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here. It's been a long time since we've done one of these, and I do want to talk about that, our history together a little bit later, but I want to dive right into the content because you're doing some pretty incredible things at your stores, and I'd like to talk to you about how you've been able to make the car business scalable and how you've been able to take dealerships and increase the sales so much so quickly.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. So a couple of years ago, I recently purchased a dealership with a partner, but before that, was doing some consulting. But before that, started a software company with a partner. But before that, was working with a dealership in Pennsylvania, and as the general manager. And then we did so well, he offered me another store, so I was managing two companies, and we took the one Chevy store from 34 cars a month to over 287 cars a month. So almost 900% growth in a 4-year period. And we did that during COVID. So what was interesting with it was we worked with the manufacturer, figured out how to have the best turn and earn when everybody was just raising prices to have the best turn and earn. So we actually increased our new car volumes over 400% during COVID by really reading the rules and really being granular in how we approached snapshot days with inventory and everything there. But one of the things we really did was make it more about a system than people. And don't get me wrong, people are everything to the business. But we want to make my mentor, Brandon Dawson, he's from the hearing aid space, but he taught me a lot about business. I spent a lot of time getting mentorship from him. And he has a saying, a leader's job is to make other people's success easy. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to make a system where we could take anybody that's a good person, that's a hard worker, and make it very easy for them to be successful at their job, whether that's parts, whether that's service, in particular sales, which always seems to be a challenge with turnover, a challenge with finding people. Dealers then, when they do find people, it's a major line on a dealer statement is the compensation for it. And if we could do it in a scalable way, which would help our people hit their own personal, professional, financial goals while helping the dealership maybe save a little bit on the bottom line as well, and then reinvest that bottom line into advertising, which would then allow the dealership to be more successful. And it was really the answer to the question was, how can I make this predictable? I was at a marketing conference that was a lot of automotive people, but also had people from outside of automotive. And I remember one of the speakers saying, the only reason you don't advertise is you're not confident that it will convert. And it really got me thinking, well, hey, I can spend more and more on advertising if I'm confident we can convert. Why wouldn't I be confident we can convert? One of it might be the people. Well, do we have the systems in place to make it successful so somebody on their first day can give the customer just as good of an experience? If I run a particular ad, do I have to worry that the wrong salesperson upped them? Or how can we make it smooth? How can we make it easy? How can we make it exciting for the customer, but also easy for the employee? So we really looked at the friction points and wanted to make it a scalable system that we could then duplicate and replicate, add people to it, add advertising, and just keep duplicating and replicating the experience. So a couple of the friction points we found were F&I wait times was a big friction point. We found internally a friction point was, I think a lot of dealers can relate to this, but internally a big friction point was the office and sales, and in particular the office and F&I, because dealers would hire F&I managers because their ability to generate revenue. And if you personality test them, it would say they're really good salespeople, but they're not really good at paperwork, and then give them a job where 90% of their time is actually doing paperwork. So we came up with a system so we could have the best of both worlds. We could have people that specialize in the paperwork, but then people that specialize in driving revenue. We also found a friction point for our employees. At Sky Automall, one of the friction points we found is we're hiring people. If we want to hire people that never sold cars before, help make their success easy and teach them to do it, because I'm recruiting people that, I might recruit somebody that was a good cashier to me at Walmart and just treated me right, or a good waitress or waiter. One of the most difficult points is closing the sale, right? Closing is a skill set that probably takes a year or so to develop, and it's the main point of their income. Plus, the other friction point we found with hiring people outside of automotive is automotive, we're all about month to month, but they're used to getting paid on a more regular basis. So that first month, when I first got into the car business, I was actually one of the people, and I think it was a blessing. It took me 7 weeks to sell my first car. Now, I came into the automotive business probably in a bad time. In 2005, General Motors had just ended employee pricing, and and they pulled all those customers ahead, and that was my first month start, was the month that ended, and the showroom floors were empty. But it was actually a great experience for me because I learned the right habits. Sometimes people that get success too easy, get shooken or shaken when they have their first, dip. So, but what we found, if you were like me and you didn't sell a car for 7 months and you are used to getting paid every week, you may quit right before you're successful.
Yeah.
You might quit right before you're successful and right before you already have the breakthrough. So we started paying our people weekly, performance-based, but weekly bonuses instead of monthly bonuses, which really helped. And then we started making a system where our salespeople weren't really salespeople, they're product specialists, and their job is to create an awesome customer experience and walk the customer from the greeting the whole way through to the write-up, where we present figures to the customer, but they don't actually participate in that part of the process. And then after this, and the delivery, and then the after-sales follow-up. So we wanted to be able to work with the least common denominator, make it the easiest possible, so a customer on their first day who gets a sales rep, a customer who gets a sales rep on their first day could have just as good of an experience as a customer that gets somebody that's been here 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm. I definitely, let's dive into that. Like that's something you've mentioned a whole bunch of things there, and let's unpack them, kind of one at a time.
Yeah.
Because I really love how you've just completely changed the way that cars are sold at your dealerships. Let's talk about kind of like if I'm the customer and let's talk about the person I talk to first and all the way through my buying process, because you've also eliminated the F&I manager role to some extent.
Yeah.
Let's talk about who I deal with at your dealership. So I just walked in, I'm looking at a car, who greets me?
Actually, Brian, let's take it back one step, since most customers are coming online and contacting the dealership via a lead form or a phone first. We can start there if that's okay.
Yeah, let's start there.
So the first person they come in contact with is the BDC. Years ago, I used to coach high school marching bands in a competitive way, and one thing I learned then was, if you're not going to be perfect the whole way through the show, if you have a very good first impression and a very good last impression, you're going to get a higher score than somebody that's so-so the whole way, because you want the first thing they remember and the last thing the judges remember. And I carried that saying into automotive as well. So if I'm going to stack the deck, we stack it with the BDC, and then the managers. We call the managers team. We have a position called team leaders, the manager, and we really stack the experience and the talent there. So where a lot of stores, I think, go the other way, they will hire people for the, we actually at Sky, we outsource our BDC. It's a company that I own though, but we hire that calls for other stores than just Sky, but we only hire people that are automotive experts in their field and could probably walk in and be the top sales guy in any store across America, or gal, mostly gals, but the top sales gal. So we specifically stack the deck there. So when the customer calls in, they're getting that professional right up from the start. They then set the appointment. If they're unable to set the appointment because the customer wants to work numbers all remotely, that's fine. We have a process for that as well. But let's say the customer is willing to set an appointment. They'll set the appointment. They set the appointment for the team leader. The team leader's a management position that we have created. So basically, we have two types of sales managers. As we mentioned, we don't have traditional F&I managers. We have desk managers, and we have team leaders. So the desk manager sits at the sales tower or at the desk on a very regular basis. We want them to be there. We want them to be able to always have somebody that the salespeople can go to. Their job is to appraise the cars, get the numbers together like a traditional desk manager would, but then also call the deal into the bank and handle, if it's a subprime deal, handle getting it approved and the structuring of the deal. Because there's some sales managers that are much better at that than they are necessarily, taking a TO and closing the deal.
Yeah.
But then there's other sales managers that are really, really good at closing the deal and TOing the customer, which is a skill set that's very hard to learn and takes time. And in automotive, I feel sometimes we take we take salespeople and we keep them as salespeople and never make them manager because we don't feel like they can manage but they're really good at production. And then what happens is they typically get manageritis. They leave. I don't want to skip ahead, but you knew me from the 30 sales a month group. And a lot of those guys you interviewed are no longer in a salesperson role. A lot of them left automotive because they kind of had that manageritis. So what we've done is we built a position around that. They might not be good at paperwork. They might not be good at the other stuff. Let's play to their strengths, not their weaknesses. So we've taken the best closers, and they're called team leads. They're mobile managers. They're just as much as a manager as the desk manager, but their job is to always be available for a TO. So, at our store, the TO is a stable datum at our store. We want a TO early, we want a TO late. Managers TO to other managers. We feel the turnover is a really important thing. So if we're setting the appointment for that manager. So if you walk into the store, you have an appointment, what would have happened is you would have already received a series of texts from the BDC, giving you the address to the store, letting you know that the car is going to be pulled around and ready to go when you get here. The team lead, you're supposed to ask you when you get here. Not to get too much in the weeds, but 15 minutes after that scheduled appointment, the BDC will send another text saying, hey, did you make it to the store? How's everything going? So managers are getting real-time intel of how the appointment's going while the customer's in the store. The salesperson then greets the customer. If it's an appointment, they'll bring them in and introduce them to the team lead that they asked for. So if you weren't an internet and you just drove up on my lot, you're going to get greeted by we call them product specialists, not salespeople, but you're going to get greeted by one of our product specialists who's going to really quickly introduce you to one of the managers. So we do, like a lot of stores, we do the appraisal early in the process, if the customer allows us to, offers for us to appraise the car ahead of time, early in the process. And that's usually a good point for that introduction. But then, so basically we'll have one team lead for every 4 to 5 salespeople. And the way we compensate the team leads, they're compensated on total front and back gross for the entire store. So they all work together. So if one's tied up, the other ones will help, but generally the salespeople will go to their team lead if they're available. But what we were trying to solve is, I think a lot of people listen to this presentation here, this interview here, are going to agree that a TO is kind of an important part in a car dealership, but it becomes not required. It becomes a good thing. Even the dealers that say they require it, in practicality, it doesn't become required because there's too many exceptions. Manager's tied up. We got the manager worrying about 10 different other things other than selling the car. He's trying to close a deal for somebody else, and now there's nobody at the desk. So we always try to have an available manager and have these mobile managers or team leaders. They have a laptop. They don't sit at a desk. They're always available. And then we'll go through more of the traditional sales process. Because if it was an internet lead, the appointment was made by the BDC for the manager. The manager already has a lot of intel of what's going on in the deal, so we meet the customer where they were at. Then if it's a subprime situation and we need to work on our pre-approval first, the manager's already involved in the deal, so it makes it very smooth. The product specialist then goes on the test drive with the customer. Very similar actually to a lot of these guys, like, that you read about, that I think you might even have them on your show, that sell like 100 cars a month, breaking, records in the Guinness Book of World Records. A lot of them have assistants helping them and assisting them, but they're closing the deals. We basically just made that a formal process. So now you take a guy that can sell 20 to 30 cars a month. What typically keeps them from going to 100 cars is you can only go on so many test drives. You can physically only get so much paperwork ready. So we'll hire product specialists, and they don't have to close a deal. They can be just a rock star person. And one of my frustration points has always been, more and more customers will know what car they're looking at before they come in the store, right? Because they shop online. But selection, statistics still show people will often buy stuff other than what they come in on. More deals it was true 20 years ago, it's still true today. Car deals oftentimes are made or not made. Customers are made extremely happy or not so happy based on selection. So by having a manager available to be inserted before selection makes the process a lot more scalable. Any particular ads we run that may need explanations, mail pieces, etc., I only have to teach, if the store has 4 team leads, I only need to teach the 4 team leads how to handle that specifically. So it takes a lot of the variables off. I know dealers that run lease ads and, the wrong salesperson gets the customer, and, that they feel like if somebody else would have got the customer, we would have put them on the right car, we would have showed them the right car, gave them the right options, that probably would have led to a car deal. By having the team leads involved, it takes that variable out. And that's what they're really, really good at. That's what they focus on. We actually try to take all the other stuff away from them. Their job's to manage production, not to manage people. And it makes everybody else's job very easy. So we could have somebody, just the other day, we had somebody on their second day sell a car. The team lead was highly involved. But now that person gets to go home, put it on their Facebook page. They sold their first car. They see another one the next day. Their parents see it. It makes it very easy to recruit. It makes it very easy to retain because we're making their job easy. Then what happens? So Brian, walk you through. You talk to the BDC. They schedule an appointment. They use a series of texts to make sure the appointment shows up. 15 minutes into the appointment, the customer gets a text saying, "Hey, how's everything going?" Customer texts back, "Great." It's a good checkpoint. If the customer texts back, "Not so great," hey, it's good for everybody at the dealership to know while the customer's there. Then we go on the test drive. When they get back from the test drive, we've already done the appraisal up front. The team lead takes back over and presents figures to the customer. So over time, we'll get a salesperson ready for promotion. We use the words master, model, mimic, master. So they model somebody, they mimic them, do it exactly, then they master their craft. Once they're good at their craft, they teach 2 other people how to do not the closing, but the other steps to the sale as good as they do. And then we spend about a year typically teaching them how to close a car deal and close F&I products, and then they become the next team lead. But the team lead will then close the car deal. The desk manager gets all the numbers together and gives it to the team lead. And this was something, I mean, this is old school car guy, but it's easier to, it helps improves grosses by having the person getting the numbers together and printing it out, not the person presenting it. Because, you know, even Jim Ziegler, I know he passed away recently, but in his training, he used to say when he was at a store, if he was the, you know, he wouldn't do the role of a salesperson, sales manager. He liked having, if he was filling in one of those roles, he would follow whatever role he was in at the moment. So the team leader then presents all the figures. Let's say we come to an agreement. You say yes to the deal, okay? While salesperson starts getting the paperwork together, so we can hire salespeople that might be more paperwork oriented and maybe a little naturally introverted because we just have to get them to greet customers. It's okay to have that. That actually helps the process. They start getting the paperwork together. While that's going on, within like 5 minutes of the desk manager starts getting the deal ready for financing. Okay, within 5 minutes of that, the team leader, the person that already closed the deal, already has to report with the customer, comes back out and goes over F&I products right then and there while the customer's sitting relaxing. We personally play dance music in our showrooms. It's very intentional because it doesn't have words, so it can't offend anybody. But even older folks, younger folks, you may not like dance music, but it reminds you of a wedding or a good time.
Yeah, get moving.
You know, and sometimes I think we just overcomplicate things. So the first start of our F&I pitch, so to speak, is not a pitch at all. We're the McDonald's, hey, do you want it supersized? Okay? You know, they'll come out with gap and warranty and just say, hey, this is how much it is for gap insurance. It's $23 a month. I'm just using an example. Would you like it? And just by making it that nonchalant with the person that already has rapport, it is just so much easier. A lot of times you get the yes right then and there. Same with the warranty. Then when we don't, they'll go into a more thorough, you know, product close, asking the question, was it the cost or you just don't see value in it? And then really building a value presentation like a lot of, any F&I extraordinaire can teach you how to do.
Yeah.
But it's a much simpler process. The customer's relaxed. We didn't let time kill the deal. We didn't let 40 minutes go by. So then, we pitch the product. While that's going on, while that pitch is happening, the paperwork's already turned in. The salesperson's already taken the paperwork to the desk manager. Desk manager structures the deal, gets the deal screened the way they need it to be, and they turn it off to a F&I administrator. So we have finance administrators that we hire. We pay them an hourly wage with the intention of giving them overtime. So we actually, when we figure out their wage, we build in overtime so that if it's a late night deal, they're actually excited. I don't know about you, but a lot of dealerships that the salesperson's all excited. They sold a car, dealership closed at 8. They've been with the customer for 2 hours grinding it out. They take it back to F&I. I don't know if you've ever heard of this happening. And the F&I manager's mad. Sales managers are a little upset, trying to turn the lights off on everybody. We create an environment where they're actually excited about that, where we create a win-win. Mm-hmm. Because the people we're hiring for administrative purposes, you can always find people that are good administratively and then are really good at selling and driving revenue. But typically, they are a little mutually exclusive, right?
Yeah.
So by breaking that up, my office is having clean paperwork. We still believe one of our core values at Sky is results oriented. So we believe in performance-based pay plans no matter who you are. So we're paying the administrator based on an hourly rate plus overtime, but they get a bonus. But their bonus is purely based off of the CIT list. So for us, every Friday, they have to have the CIT list under a certain number of days and they get a bonus. And same with the problem list for the accounting office. So their job's to manage that and to make sure the deals are clean. While that's going on, the desk managers and team leads already moved on to other deals. So
Yeah.
it's like an assembly line. That deal gets printed. Once it gets printed, the salesperson will go and sign what we call the non-numbers forms, all the generic disclosures you have to have nowadays for the dealership, make sure they go over the warranties. So since the team lead's the one that sold the F&I products and sold the car, they're the best ones to answer any questions on the paperwork. So they will come out and sign those particular things up. But what that does is that allows, again, we could do 5 deals in an hour at one time. In a traditional store and traditional F&I, it's not even the first customer that says yes. It's the first salesperson that gets their paperwork to F&I. If you got 3 F&I people working today, once you get to the 4th and 5th, they're waiting in line.
Yeah.
And they're really waiting just to wait. So by having this assembly line process going on, we can do 10 deals in an hour. On Saturday last week, our stores sold 17 cars, and Murphy's Law, most of those deals happened within a 3-hour time span. And we just don't have customers complaining about wait times in F&I. So much so that I can count in the last year the 3 incidences where we had somebody that was waiting a little long, where in most dealerships you kind of almost become numb to it because wait times in F&I seems to be an issue.
It's every evening and every Saturday,
Yeah.
right? And if you're unlucky enough to be open on Sundays, it's on Sunday too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and then you can't. So by having a streamlined process, it makes it easier for the customer, makes it a win for the customer. It helps us sell F&I products because sometimes people are just tired of waiting, and they want to. By doing it in that euphoric moment, there's a moment in time when they say yes that they're very open, and the more that time goes by, it kills that. It kills that moment.
Well, they start to feel buyer's remorse a little bit.
Yes.
And that just like grows inside of them.
Yeah.
You know what I really like about your process is, you and I especially, we've had the I guess the privilege of meeting some of these people in the car business that can take a TO like nobody's seen. They are gifted. It's almost like an unworldly power that they have to take that great TO, and instead of having that person doing all the paperwork and wasting time, you're keeping them in front of customers. Boom, 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 boom. You're having them do what they do best. You and I have both met a lot of these guys, and gals that they can close anything.
Yeah.
And so why would you have them doing anything other than closing, right?
Yeah. So no, that's exactly why. And same with some managers that are better at working with the banks than they are working with the customer. Let's put people where they're best at. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of, so for our managers, whether you're a desk manager or a team lead, there's not a pay difference. We don't see there's not a ranking difference. It's not one's in charge of the other. In our stores, the GM or the GSM will oftentimes, in our store, the GSM will oftentimes act as a sales manager. Well, in one store we have, he acts as a team lead most of the time. In the other store, he acts as a desk manager. It's what they're good at. You can have a captain of the football team can be a running back, or the captain of the football team can be a receiver. They're just different positions. Just because I may be the best running the football doesn't mean I'm the best at catching it, or vice versa. So it's just putting people at what they do best, and then making it easy for the team to succeed. What that does is that gives us confidence, right? As a dealer, it gives confidence. If you have a dream team of salespeople, you're probably more confident to advertise and bring traffic. So if I only have to rely on 4 people to be that dream team, and then I can get other people, and they can become part of the dream team over time, I can have unlimited confidence that there's going to be consistency and stability every day.
Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcox Media.
That kind of leads me to another question I wanted to ask you, because you're talking about bringing people in and you've talked about developing them. Talk to us a little bit about, like where you're finding these people and why your process makes you able to take in people that traditionally we wouldn't even think about for dealership roles.
Yeah. So to define that, where we find the team leads is people that have been either selling for us for a while and master that skill, or people that ideally we like to promote from within. But when we started buying stores in Iowa, my business partner and I, you kind of sometimes have to start from outside till you get the right people. So what we've done is we used recruiting companies, ads, et cetera, specifically targeting that really high sales producer that for whatever reason their company never gave them a promotion because their company's relying on them to manage inventory, do other things, and they're just a closer. So we are particularly targeting that manager-itis salesperson. And then as far as our product specialists go, which are really our salespeople, our product specialists, we're really hiring them from anything other than automotive. So we are, our guys are going out and they have business cards, and on the back it says, I can show you how to make 60 grand a year. You give that to a really nice cashier at Walmart, the wheels are going to be turning. Mm-hmm. We'll run ads and career events, but typically it's people that are used to making, much lower incomes in retail or customer service. They'll come to us and, they'll instantly be making, with the help of their team lead, 50, 60 grand a year, which is a lot more and a path to make a lot more, but it's maybe a lot less than what a traditional dealership is paying their salespeople, but it's a lot more than what these people ever made in their life. So one of the interview questions that we'll ask, and I got this from one of my business mentors in the hearing aid space, but he taught me in the interview after, our managers will do a bunch of different interview questions, but then before we actually hire them, I'll come in and we'll ask, or one of the managers will come in and we'll ask them what their 5-year goal is, personally and professionally, not business, but I want to buy a house, and then we'll ask the question, well, what's the most money you ever made in a year? Well, I made 30 grand. Oh, great, that's awesome. Why didn't you make 60? We'll just double the number, whatever they say. So if they said 60, we'll say 120. And their response is interesting because for a lot of people, they just didn't realize what was possible. So we're helping with their belief right then and there. And then the question is, hey, if we could show you how to make that 60 grand, what would that do to your 5-year goal? Well, I'd probably accomplish it in 2. I'd buy my house sooner.
Yeah.
And then the question is, great, long as I will never ask you to do anything illegal, unethical, or immoral. But as long as we cover those 3 bases, are you willing to do whatever it takes to hit that goal of 60 grand or that goal of 80 grand? Are you within those limits, are you willing to do whatever it takes? Will you stay late? Will you be on time? Yeah, I will. Okay, great. So what can I expect from you in return? And then they'll say, I'll be a positive attitude. I'll be on time. And we just start writing it down. So, their first time that maybe they're late or their first time, we remind them about their commitments and their goals. So we make it about their goals. But we're taking people traditionally out of automotive. I'm not saying we'll never hire anybody with automotive experience, but we found it works really well to take people out of automotive, teach them how to achieve things personally, professionally, and financially that they've never been able to achieve, and show them what's possible and totally change their belief in themselves. And then you build a loyalty that is really, really strong when you do that.
Well, you're changing their lives.
Yes,
If you take somebody from 30,000 and you take them up to 60,000, that's life changing. I mean, if you take somebody that's making 120 and take them to 150, that's not necessarily life changing. But to go 30,000 from 30 to 60,
Yeah.
like, you know, they're going from struggling to have a car that runs and paying their rent to owning a house and having a new car.
Yeah.
I mean, like that is life changing.
It is life changing, and it's life changing, and it creates win-wins because it also helps the dealer on their end always having a steady pool of people you can pull from, because when you quit fishing in the really small pond and you expand your horizons a little bit, there's a lot more opportunities to find great people. Our goal is to find remarkable people, to attract, retain remarkable people that are incredibly aligned, willing to do whatever it takes to hit their personal, professional, financial goals while helping the company hit theirs. And I know that statement's a mouthful, but we've memorized it, kind of like our mission statement. I just make car buying and servicing fun, easy, and exciting, and a win-win for everybody. And if we can focus our people, myself on recruiting and attracting and being the type of company that makes it easy, you can attract really good people, but you got to make it easy. You know, we will have, occasionally we'll have people leave our company, go somewhere else, and, you know, realize, oh wow, you know, it's much harder here. You know, I sold 20 cars over here, but I'm only selling 5 here, because we made a system that really makes it easy for them.
You know, Mike, I want to shift gears. You know, you and I were talking on the phone a couple weeks ago, and you told me that you felt that AI was the industrial revolution of our generation. And you're currently developing an AI CRM for your dealership. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to me a little bit about, like, what inspired you to do that, and what is it going to do?
Yeah, so it definitely can talk about that. So I think it goes back to our previous conversation with just scalability, right? The core business, we want to make the model as scalable as possible, make things as easy as possible for people. So, you know, the old rule of thumb was a good salesperson should be able to make, you know, 150 phone calls a day, sell 10 cars a month. But now with all of the sources, with the right systems, I can send a text out to 1,000 customers at one time, make it look very personal, make it be a personal text. I don't need to manually go through very mundanely and text or call each customer. With the technology we have nowadays, we can automate a lot. We can, so that our people are focused on, like you talked about, that skill set of closing the deal. Our people can focus on that and not just the mundane tasks. So typical dealership, right? Car dealerships, biggest problem sales managers have, survey says, right, is getting their salespeople to do their tasks in the CRM. Why do we need tasks? Why don't we have actions? So, you know, kind of what we're making is more of an automatic follow-up system than a CRM, because we wanted to do actions. So the idea is, what you can do is you can actually schedule texting. You know, we have the technology right now, just most automotive systems, nothing against Vin Solutions, nothing against the eLeads or the current systems that are out there, but most of them you can't schedule a text. Now there's some companies that are doing it, and it's great, but the ability to be able to schedule a text. So if I'm talking to you on the phone and I'm a salesperson, and you say, hey, I'm busy right now, I'm at work, call me after 5. Okay, I can schedule a task, but how much easier is it to just schedule a text to fire off at 4:59? Hey, is now an okay time to talk? And then my BDC only has to manage the responses. You know, if we have a, you know, other technology outside of automotive, you know, we're using mass texting, mass response. If customers in my showroom, that text, you know, even right now, that text 15 minutes after the appointment, hey, did you make it to the store? How's everything going? That text can be automated. Yeah. So we don't have to leave it up to human error and chance. Everybody knows, I mean, you know, there's trainers out there that teach prospecting, staying up with your customers, you know, sending out birthday cards, thank you cards. But instead of tasks in the CRM, if we can just automate all that it goes out, it's personal, it's going to take the workload off of the mundane tasks off the sales reps. That's going to free up labor, and you can use it then to truly focus on closing deals and driving revenue instead of the mundane tasks. How cool would it be if you're looking at a car, you didn't buy it, I sold the car to somebody else, but as soon as, instead of getting a phone call, if we could automate an AI message when a new car comes in that's similar, hey, I got this one in today, is that something you'd be interested in? So the more we can automate instead of create tasks, the more we can schedule things and automate the future follow-up at the dealer. From a dealer standpoint, I don't have to then leave it up to Johnny. So you might have one dealership that has a sales guy that sells 50 cars a month because it's all repeat referrals because he's following up. Then you got 10 other salespeople that don't follow up with their customers. Well, I'm the dealer. I want all my customers to be followed up with that well.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily, let's face it, want to be reliant on a person for that because, I want to be in control of the messaging. Now we can control that. We can make sure it doesn't matter what salesperson they get; they're going to be followed up with for life, regardless of human behavior and shortcomings or turnover in the car business. Salesperson left. This customer's still going to be followed up with just as well.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody that's watching this right now probably has 2 or 3 voicemails they haven't listened to yet, has a couple text messages they haven't responded to yet, probably has some tasks that they need to do, and some emails they haven't gotten to, and then it's going to be 8 o'clock at night, and it's too late to do any of those things, right? Yeah. Then that happens to all of us every day. So if you could, anything you can take off of a person's plate in order to let them focus on the things that they need to do is a great idea.
And that's really what we're going for, is multiplying the efforts. So one person, again, just like with the systems in the dealership and the job roles, that team lead is going to have a bigger magnitude of impact by having other people in the system and his role in that system. Same with AI. We want to create where our people just have a bigger magnitude of impact because you can do stuff faster, you can do stuff quicker, you can get messaging out a lot faster for people. So masked, just hey, being able to send out to automate that, the 90-day follow-up. Hey, it's been a while. You were looking at the dealership. I've worked for the executive management team. Just wanted to see how my team was doing. Were they helpful? Customer then responds back. Because if you give that to a BDC, if they can't do that in mass through technology, they're doing one-on-one. We're spending all our time trying just to get outbound activity. But now we can create a lot of outbound activity with a snap of a finger. As long as you're doing it within TCPA compliance and everything. But there's ways to do that between texting, soon, I think automated voice, AI voice commands, AI videos, that's going to be the thing that frees everything up, right? Because 10 years ago, 15 years ago, video was like the buzzword in the car business, right? And it still amazes me how many dealerships don't do it. Well, why don't we do it? Because it takes time. But if we could just have, if we have AI, if we can automate videos to go out, I don't have to rely on that salesperson. Because I'm not saying salespeople are bad. They could have all the intention in the world of recording a video and sending it out to a customer 40 minutes before they show up. Hey, I'm Jason, I'm going to help you today. But it doesn't get sent out every time because they get tied up. Murphy's Law happens. Other customers come in. The more we can automate and the more we can use AI to make sure that stuff is consistent, every customer is getting a consistent experience.
Mike, is there anything more you'd like to share with our audience today before we go?
Yeah, I just think we can learn a lot from outside automotive. I've this year I've always learned the car business is a great business, and I started just as a salesperson. Now I'm owning a dealership. It was an amazing journey, and I hope it stays that way for many more people to come. But I think sometimes we get so inundated, whether it's technology, whether it's AI, whether it's job roles, like this is the way we've always done it in automotive. To me, going outside of automotive and talking to businesses outside of automotive, whether it's marketing or whether it's job roles, and then bringing that into automotive, and it's okay to be creative as long as there's a reason for it. Creativity for the creativity's sake is not good, but what's the simplest way we can achieve something to make it easy for everybody else, whether that's AI or whether that's job roles and positioning. Just how can we make it more scalable?
Hey, Mike, thank you for coming in. Thank you for taking the time to join us for this AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today our guest has been Mike Svoboda from Sky Auto Mall. We hope to see you again on a future episode. This one's Over the Curb and Burning Gas.